In the heart of a quiet Nigerian village, where red earth breathes beneath golden sunlight and cassava leaves whisper secrets to the wind, there lived a couple blessed beyond measure. Their land stretched wide beyond what the eye could hold. Their barns were full, their goats were strong, their harvests never failed. Palm trees swayed like guardians over fertile soil, and each planting season answered them with abundance. But inside their house, there was no laughter. Amara Akinyele carried herself with grace, the quiet kind that does not beg to be noticed. Her skin glowed like warm earth after rain, and her eyes were deep with kindness. She worked the fields beside her husband. She cooked. She greeted neighbors with respect. She did everything right. Yet every market day, when women gathered around woven baskets of pepper and okra, the whispers followed her. Wealth cannot buy a womb. She should allow Tunde take another wife. It is not good for a man's house to be silent. Amara would smile. She had mastered that smile. But when she walked back home along the dusty path, when no one was watching, her steps grew slower. Her eyes grew heavier. Tunde loved her, not loudly, not with dramatic speeches, but faithfully. His hands were rough from soil, but gentle when they held hers. One night, under the trembling glow of an oil lamp, he said quietly, "I married you, not your womb." She wanted to believe him fully, but even love cannot silence the ache of waiting. Years passed. The land prospered. The house remained quiet. Then came the dry season, when the river ran low. The Elsonle River had always been part of the village's rhythm. Women fetched water from it, children splashed along its edges, elders told stories beneath its trees. But that season, the water pulled back from its banks, revealing smooth stones and exposed roots like secrets uncovered. One afternoon, when the sun hung low and the air felt strange and still, Amara went alone to fetch water. That was the day she saw her. An old woman sat beneath a crooked tree near the river's edge. Her clothes were damp, though the ground was dry. Her frame was thin, her back slightly bent, yet her eyes were too sharp, too alive. "Why do you cry when no one sees you?" the old woman asked. Amara froze. She had not spoken. She had not wept. "I do not cry," she replied softly. The old woman smiled, a smile that felt older than memory itself. "The river tells me things." The wind did not move. The birds did not sing. Still, Amara chose kindness. She helped the woman stand. She brought her home. That night, something shifted. The goats did not bleat. The leaves did not rustle. The air felt thick, like the pause before thunder. Amara awoke at midnight and stepped quietly into the courtyard. The old woman stood beneath the moonlight, facing the direction of the river. She was whispering, but the words did not sound human. They flowed like water over stone. The moonlight shimmered strangely around her skin. Then slowly, she turned and smiled directly at Amara. By morning, the air felt heavier, older. The old woman arose from her mat, but she did not rise like before. Her back straightened, her skin softened, her presence expanded. Her eyes shimmered like the surface of a river touched by sunlight. "You are what your people forgot," she said calmly. "I am the keeper of the waters your ancestors once honored." Tunde stood frozen at the doorway. The river remembers, even when men do not. She stepped toward Amara and placed her palm gently against her stomach. The land has remembered you. Wind rushed through the compound, dust lifted, the oil lamp flickered out, and when the air settled, she was gone. Only damp footprints remained. Weeks passed. Amara began to feel different. Nausea, fatigue, a quiet flutter of hope she was almost afraid to name. The village herbalist confirmed it with a knowing smile. Amara screamed, not in pain, but in release. Tunde wept openly for the first time in years. The woman once called barren now carried life. But not just one life, two. The night the children came, thunder split the sky, though no clouds had gathered before. Rain poured as if the heavens had been waiting for that very moment. Inside the small clay house, between clenched hands and whispered prayers, two cries echoed into the storm. Ayo, Mirele, twin children, strong, loud, unafraid. And outside, the river swelled gently, not in anger, but in approval. The twins grew quickly. Animals seemed drawn to them. Crops flourished wherever they played. Even during a season of drought, when nearby farms withered under relentless sun, rain fell only on Tunde's land. The villagers began whispering again. But this time, their whispers carried something different. Not mockery, fear. Iya Ronke, who had once urged Tunde to take another wife, narrowed her eyes whenever she saw the children laughing in the fields. Not all blessings are pure, she warned. But the twins knew nothing of suspicion. They chased goats, they splashed water, they ran barefoot through maize taller than themselves. Years passed and prosperity became ordinary. The village slowly forgot again. They stopped cleaning the riverbanks, they stopped offering gratitude, they stopped remembering. And slowly, the river began to shrink. Fish floated lifeless near the surface. Stones cracked under exposed heat. The once singing water fell silent. Fear returned. Tunde stood before the villagers and spoke the words no one wanted to admit. We forgot. And so they gathered at the weakened river, not with fear, not with sacrifice, but with humility. They knelt. They prayed. They gave thanks. The twins stood quietly at the edge of the shallow stream, watching the water with calm eyes. The wind shifted. The surface shimmered. Then slowly, the river flowed again, full, alive. Years later, under a golden sunset, the farmland stretched wide and abundant once more. But this time, laughter ran through it. Two small figures dashed between tall maize stalks, their giggles carried by warm evening wind. Dust rose beneath their feet as they raced towards the horizon. Amara stood watching, peaceful, whole. The woman once mocked, now remembered. Sometimes wealth is loud, but blessing is patient. Sometimes heaven waits to see if your heart can remain kind while your story feels empty. And somewhere, beneath quiet waters, the river still remembers her name.